Portland, Oregon. It's time for A Different View, with women's perspectives on the fight to end prohibition again, with Portland Dispensaries examiner and mother of four, Jennifer Alexander, and professional healthcare provider Iva Cunningham from Alternative Medical Choices, Inc. Now, here's A Different View.
Hello, everybody. It's Tuesday night, 8 o'clock Pacific. I'm here with Jennifer Alexander and Russ Belva. He's over there playing with the knobs. I'm Iva Cunningham. What else is it? It's knobs. What an exciting week it's been. We were at the Earl Blumenauer Town Hall Conference on Sunday.
Yes.
That was interesting. Those meetings always leave me feeling two ways. A little bit excited and a little bit depressed.
A little bit of both. Yeah, definitely. I'm looking forward to talking about that a little bit in depth. Towards the end of the show, I think we're going to talk a little bit about how everything's sort of playing out now that we have legal marijuana in 2 states.
Conversation is different. It's not about
a
medical
totally
anymore,
different conversation.
which is exciting because that's really what we all want. I mean, that helps everybody, not just people who want to consume it personally, but all patients who can't get on the program now. Brave Mykayla, the auction, is going to close with us tonight.
Yep.
I am in love with that family.
Brave Mykayla is such a good little spokesperson for our movement because she's so intelligent, she's so young, and she's a great example of what medical marijuana can do to help a patient.
She is a gorgeous, precocious little girl, and her tiny little sister, I cannot remember her name, Riley, beautiful, gorgeous. They were such a fun energy to have in the house. It's been a while since we have teeny tiny little kids. And Russ and I, we don't have kids, we just have a very short dog. And he has no
grass. Who is as ornery as a child. It's okay.
He's in his perpetual terrible threes. But anyway, it's funny because she kids at that age are very tactile. They have to touch everything, and it's walking around going, oh, we don't have kids. Oh, I didn't think about. Oh, put the flame torch away. It's just.
Oh, look at all those little adapters I got sitting on the floor. Oh,
she's so cute. Though. She was just so curious about everything. They're just. I love that family. So we'll talk a little bit more about that in the auction, and we'll go over the winners too.
And we're going to talk a little bit about another child here in Oregon, the Jeremy Echols and Alex Echols in their case.
Yes. Lots of good news. Come back and join us. You're listening to Different View.
No, I'm afraid you're not. You're listening to A Different View. We'll be right back.
Sniffing at the cash flow, but I know that the chase can only go so far as a motherfucker wanted to go. And this motherfucker right here gonna push it to the maximum. And you can continue to keep fucking asking them, how did the dirt ball still around, persevere? What you see is what you know, and I done said it before. I'm an iceberg, and you can only see the top. The beats are banging hot, so I give it what I got. In the epicenter of the game, high up on the block.
Hi everybody, Radical Russ Belville here with a very special announcement. 420radio.org is hosting an auction this Tuesday, January 29th at 3 p.m. to benefit Brave Mykayla, the 7-year-old girl using medical marijuana to fight cancer. Mykayla Comstock was featured on The Ricky Lake Show and was the Oregonian's #2 video story of 2012. She will be live in studio with her parents, Erin Purchase and Brandon Krensler, taking live calls and auctioning donated items to raise money for medical expenses. She made national headlines when it was revealed that she is using medical marijuana in her treatment regimen for childhood leukemia. And this will mark her first live media appearance on the Russ Belville Show to promote the auction and telethon Tuesday, January 29th at 3 p.m. Pacific.
California is the center of marijuana consciousness. That's why High Times Magazine is returning to the Golden State for our second High Times Medical Cannabis Cup in Los Angeles. That's right. Come to LA Center Studios on February 16th and 17th for this high-flying event. Meet the medical cannabis industry, visit our extra special medicating area, and sample the best cannabis products of Southern California. There'll be cultivation seminars and presentations about getting pot legalized, not just in California, but everywhere. Be there on Saturday evening when we host a Rock'em Sock'em concert with surprise musical guests. And don't forget Sunday night and the High Times Medical Cannabis Cup Awards when we honor the best sativa, best indica, best hybrid, best concentrate, and best edibles of the LA medical cannabis scene. Plus, we present present the High Times Lifetime Achievement Award to marijuana superstar Tommy Chong. Come to the City of the Angels on February 16th and 17th for a High Times cannabis celebration. Go to medcancup.com for details. Live the high life. Be proud of who you are. Be part of the growing cannabis community.
That's right. It's a different view.
A different view. We're not going to mess this one up again, Iva.
No.
You're listening to A Different View. This is Jennifer and Iva. I wanted to... Well, I'll wait for the music to come down just a little bit. I wanted to update our listeners. The legislative session for 2013 here in Oregon has kicked off. It's officially started.
Yes.
And right away out the gate, we do have a bill before the Healthcare and Human Services Committee, which is something we've all long been fighting for.
Oh, yeah.
This is to add PTSD to the OMMP as a qualifying condition.
Right.
If we can get it added, there's so many patients that are affected by this. It's been long fought for. Actually, just this last fall, we were trying to, as a community, add it through administrative rule change, which is the process that the OMMP calls for to add qualifying conditions within its text. But every time we do that, there's a lot of opposition and reluctance to do it, not because it's not supported, but because a lot of the Oregon Health Authority sort of feel that it should be done through the legislature, that certain medical professionals feel it should be done through the FDA. There's just a lot of argument about how it's done. But everybody agrees that cannabis can benefit PTSD patients.
Right. I think that the argument that I always hear is it's a slippery slope. They could add in all mental health issues, all anxiety, and my response is that so.
Right, exactly.
But that's the argument they always hear. Oh my gosh, there'll be more people in the program. Oh, you guys have made $8 million. You can't make any more.
Well, and more people in the program isn't necessarily a bad thing. I mean, what we're saying when we add people to the program is that there are more people who will not go to jail for their medical use of marijuana.
Right.
We're not talking about, as much as I wish we were not talking about, people just sitting around getting high. We're talking about people that will not suffer the consequences of criminal sanctions for something that society and the medical community believes is helping them.
Right. It's definitely, and it's embraced by the VA. The VA realizes that this is very beneficial to post-traumatic syndrome, especially for vets. It takes them right out of that mental seizure that they're in, the hallucinated states and the anxiety that they feel during those episodes. And, and I've talked to many people who use cannabis, even though that may be their qualifying condition, but they do use it to manage or to mitigate some of their PTSD symptoms, and every single one of them is like, I couldn't get through the day if I had this. And also the other noticeable trend is that a lot of them are cutting back their use because they're having less and less symptoms.
Right. Well, and I wrote an article and I just linked to it on our Facebook page at A Different View 420. The article discusses a study from like 2002. It's been quite some time, but I mean, this is a study that's been repeated numerous times and shown the same effect, and that is that cannabis helps to remove traumatic memory. And with PTSD, that's exactly what they need. They need to remove that. And one of the things that I've pointed out in the past when we've talked about PTSD here on A Different View is the last thing somebody who's suffering from PTSD needs is a drug raid on their home.
Right.
That there is no way you can convince me that is helping them or society busting down the door of somebody who's already suffering from PTSD.
Right.
That's going to add trauma to them. So this is a good thing. This is something we definitely need. The hearing is scheduled for February 7th in Salem at the Capitol at 3 p.m. I did link that information on our Facebook page, as well as the article that I wrote regarding this that links to some of the information about us trying to add it last year and the bill itself. There's also a couple of things in this bill that are slight text changes as well that all look positive to me. Nothing huge, nothing dramatic, but slight text changes that better clarify what
I want to mention too, if you guys see stuff on our Facebook page or something, feel free to share that with anybody
and comment. Share your thoughts.
And we're still looking for volunteers to work with the quilt idea.
Yes,
that would be nice if you are interested in that.
And we have a topic on our webpage for that purpose specifically, and we're especially looking for people with quilting experience and knowledge to sort of help those of us with a little less of that.
Even just organize, even if you don't know how to quilt yourself.
Ideas, suggestions, all of it,
things like that. If you've ever organized one before, we'd love to invite you to
and helping network to those people who should be represented on that quilt. I mean, we want to draw in as many people as possible.
That's right.
I also wanted to say that there's going to be a lot of other hearings coming up, that this legislative session, there's a lot expected to happen here in Oregon, and I bet in many other states as well. So in that article that I linked on our webpage, or our Facebook page, there's also a link within that article to the benefits of contacting your representatives and how to contact your representatives, because you should be contacting your representative, asking them to co-sponsor bills like this, asking them to support bills like this.
It's interesting that you should bring that up, because I just had a little debate with somebody on my family PC Facebook website, and you cannot continue to complain unless you're going to take action. I mean, to me, you only have the right to complain if you've tried. And it didn't meet anywhere.
Some people don't know where to start, though, and that's why I wanted to put that article out there, because you need to know how to make those connections, who to call, who represents you.
But that's what I did. I posted all these different stuff, and I'm like, make a phone call, send a letter, send an email. Make your presence known, make your voice heard. I mean, it's one thing to complain, but if you're not going to be proactive to make a change there, then after a while, I just don't care.
Right.
But contacting these our elected officials is another way we have an impact on government besides our vote.
Right. Well, we're going to have a guest on with this next segment, so we're going to cut to break a little bit early here, and we're going to get Patrick Nightingale from Pittsburgh NORML on the line. We'll be right back.
I'm down and out and I need a bit of money. Won't you put it in rain? My blood runs fire. I feel it inside. I beg the question. I hold no lies, and I've been missing your permission to continue my mission.
The law offices of Omar Figueroa would like to remind you to stand up for your rights. Please do not give up your precious liberties. There's nothing wrong with standing up for our constitutional rights, and in fact, it's the only way to honor the Constitution that recognizes our natural rights.
That's on our,
treat law enforcement with respect and respect the Constitution by standing up for your rights. If you are detained or arrested, stand up for your rights by repeating, I respectfully invoke all my legal and constitutional rights. I do not consent to any search and seizure. I want to remain silent, and I want to speak to my attorney, Omar Figueroa. Omar Figueroa has more than a decade of experience in federal and California courts and graduated from Yale University, Stanford Law School, and Trial Lawyers College. Please contact the law offices of Omar Figueroa at 415-489-0420 or 707-829-0215 or on the web at www.omarfigueroa.com.
Now we're back with A Different View.
Welcome back. You're listening to A Different View. So we have a guest on this segment, Patrick Nightingale. He's the executive director for Pittsburgh NORML and a speaker for Law Enforcement Against Prohibition. He's a practicing criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. He founded Pittsburgh NORML in 2009 to support Pennsylvania's first medical marijuana bill, and since that time has testified before the congressional committees there in Pennsylvania and conducted numerous television and radio interviews. Patrick and Pittsburgh NORML have become the first point of contact for cannabis-related issues in the Pittsburgh area, and here he is with us on A Different View. Hi, Patrick. Are you there? Do we have
If
Patrick
you are
on the line?
satisfied with your message, press.
Oh, no, we lost him.
Darn it.
Okay, I'll try and dial out.
Well, we'll have Patrick here in a minute. He's going to talk to us a little bit about the ruling we were discussing last week, Americans for Safe Access versus the DEA, and some of the implications for the medical marijuana and just marijuana movement in general moving forward.
Patrick, do we have you on the line?
Yes, you do.
Excellent. We just did your introduction and realized we had lost you. Welcome to the show, Patrick. I'm Jennifer and Iva here with me.
Hello, Patrick.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for having me on this evening.
And so, why don't you go ahead and start by telling us your thoughts on the ruling from last week on Americans with for Safe Access against the DEA? What are you thinking moving forward here? Where are we at?
Well, I can tell you that after reading the court's opinion and reviewing some of the precedent, that Americans for Safe Access really had an uphill battle. I almost want to say I don't think they stood much of a chance in the fight, because the burden that they were faced with was not only in showing that the DEA's ruling was arbitrary and capricious, but in challenging the DEA's own interpretation of their regulations. The DEA believed that it was required to show clinical studies of the type that the FDA would use when approving a new drug. But that's what they had to show in order to meet the DEA's own regulations. And Americans for Safe Access tried to challenge that by saying, no, we have peer review articles. We've got a large amount of this evidence to bring forward, and we think, DEA, that your decision and your interpretation of your own regulations was incorrect. And that really was not something that the court was at all inclined to look favorably on.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. So if let's just for hypothetical sakes, if Safer had managed to win, and what do you think that the actual rollout or the implications of that would have been to reschedule it?
Well, what I find interesting in the ruling, and what I think provides some type of clear path forward, is that the amount of scientific evidence of clinical studies that have been conducted since this litigation took place. I mean, the evidentiary record in this case was closed basically in 2002 with the initial petition to have it rescheduled. That I think the court was signaling that if you come back with this type of evidence that the DEA is requiring and that now exists, there could be a different finding.
I think it's likely that we will see the DEA rescheduling marijuana in the near future, medically speaking. Like, will we expect them to do that, or do you think that they're going to continue sort of along the path that they're on now in developing different cannabinoid-based medicines, but leaving marijuana as a Schedule I substance?
I think they'll continue to fight it tooth and nail until there's some legislative action, either rescheduling or fully legalizing marijuana on a federal level. I don't think the DEA is going to back off, because it's committed itself to this position. It has repeated this position in court time and time again, and I don't see it now reconsidering unless it has, for lack of a better term, just overwhelming evidence to the contrary.
Patrick, even if they were to manage to reschedule it to a different level, wouldn't that still have allowed the pharmaceutical companies to continue to pursue drugs that are either synthetic or extractions or whatever, instead of allowing it to be, the plant itself be legal? Wouldn't they still be able to do that? Or wouldn't that be the pressure, I guess?
I mean, the rescheduling, it's still a controlled substance. It's still subject to federal regulations. It's still illegal to possess. It's still illegal to grow. It's still illegal under federal law to use medicinally. And it doesn't inhibit pharmaceutical companies whatsoever from continuing to, find the type of alternatives that they're exploring in order to make the money that they're making.
So it really just needs to be completely off the
opens the door to additional research and to potential moving it forward to accept medical practice.
Do you believe that this ruling in favor of the DEA is going to impact other states that are currently looking at implementing medical marijuana? Do you think they're going to take a step back because of this ruling, or do you think that this ruling sort of reinforces the idea that the states need to continue to legalize medical marijuana to put pressure on the federal government to change those laws?
Well, it can go one direction or the other. If a state or if the state's legislators are looking over their shoulder wondering, what type of signals are we getting from the federal government, then it may cause them to get gun shy. I remember when we had our first medicinal marijuana hearings here in Pennsylvania in December of 2009, that was one of the first questions that the legislators asked me is, what can we expect from the federal response? Now, if a state is more inclined to say, hey, we are going to take leadership in this issue, we are not concerned with the federal government, we are going to assert the rights of our citizens like Washington and Colorado have done, then I think that this ruling won't have any impact whatsoever. It'll be more of the same, for lack of a better term.
And it's excellent that you just mentioned Colorado and Washington, because my next question was going there. I've talked to a lot of people. I come from Indiana, more in the Midwest, and living out here in Oregon now. I've talked to a lot of people, from here to there regarding how the passage of legal marijuana in both Washington and Colorado has impacted. And in Indiana even, there's a lot of murmurings of decriminalization, legalization, medical marijuana, and a lot more support for it because of what happened in Washington and Colorado. Out there on the East Coast, are you guys getting those same sort of murmurings? Is there more support in Pittsburgh as a result of Washington and Colorado legalizing marijuana?
Absolutely. It has provided that talking point. People want to talk about it. It's a subject matter that we found engages people on a local level, even people that don't necessarily care whether cannabis consumers, have rights or don't have rights. They're interested. They're intrigued. A lot of people here have been told their entire lives that this is the devil's weed. It is the gateway drug. And now all of a sudden there's a national conversation going on about whether it should be illegal in the first place. And that's gotten a lot of traction locally. And it's helping to push that conversation to our legislators. And that's the most important thing that we're dealing with here in Pennsylvania. Some of, our activist friends out on the West, you have ballot initiatives and the voters can go right to, can take an initiative right to the voters, for passage. But here in Pennsylvania, it must go through the legislature. We have a Republican-controlled legislature and we have a Republican-controlled, governor's mansion that has so far, stymied any efforts to move this conversation forward. We've got to have this type of conversation in the media, and it's resonating well.
Well, do you think that even though Safer lost and we weren't able to reschedule, do you think that this showed the hypocrisy of the way the system is set up or how prohibition is set up? Do you think that more people are clued into maybe not even being, cannabis consumers like you mentioned earlier, but are starting to see that why this just doesn't make sense for our society and our communities?
Absolutely. More and more people are saying, wait a minute, there are 18 states that permit this medicinally. I'm not going to smoke it, but if someone, said my grandma might benefit from it, then I think that's a conversation that she should have with her physician, and it's none of the damn government's business. And that's the type of, message that I think is starting to really gain some traction. That it's reaching out, far beyond the cannabis community, but to voters, voters at large, just like it did in Washington, just like it did in Colorado, and just like it's done in, the medicinal states that have legalized up to this point. It's something where people say, hey, if it's a legitimate treatment option, then it's something I want to at least be able to talk to my doctor about.
Do you think that those same people, those people that were previously not in favor of cannabis, but now are also kind of warming up to the idea of full legalization and regulation?
Yes, and I think for two reasons. One, I think that as we move forward, the idea of medical marijuana is kind of a red herring. It is a bit of a ruse, because if it's medical marijuana only, it's still subject to some type of control. It's still subject to federal prosecution. That nothing short of full legalization can address this issue. So I think that people are looking at it and say, well, I support medical marijuana, but it doesn't really seem to get us to where we need to go.
Right.
And for that reason can be hesitant about it. So that's an issue that we have to confront and deal with and say, I understand that, but we have to get our foot in the door. We have to move forward. And even if we don't get full legalization, that medical provision can help a lot of people, and we'll work on that full legalization when it's an appropriate political climate for it.
So I've always kind of felt that, like, go ahead. I'm sorry, you were going to say something.
No, go ahead.
I think. Personally, I think medical marijuana, I think one of the things that we're not using to our advantage is medical marijuana, while great and does all the things that, takes the most vulnerable people out of the firing lines. But I think also one of the conversations that we're not having is that the reason why people begin to have issues with the medical marijuana programs is because they see the loopholes. And I think that one of the things that we need to be demonstrating is that full legalization protects all those vulnerable people, cleans out our systems, or cleans out our legal systems, but also provides more regulation and parameters for those people who might be taking advantage of the loopholes in the medical marijuana systems. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that, but I'm here in Pennsylvania, a state that I like to refer to as the hinterlands of cannabis reform in the United States. And it's a gradual process. Right. I did a presentation recently to some elected representatives, one who was a former police chief that I knew when I was a prosecutor.
Uh-oh, did we lose Patrick?
Talked about law enforcement savings and revenue projections and so on and so forth. And he looked at me right in the eye and said, "But Pat, we're in Pennsylvania. Do you really think that we're ready to talk about full legalization?" I said, I understand where you're coming from, Representative Costa. But he said, my daughter, she's suffering from this condition. We've talked about this, and I do believe that it can be effective. And I think that that's a good starting point for us here in Pennsylvania. For other states, it's a state-by-state basis to see what the local climate, can permit.
Hey, Patrick, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show with us. We definitely appreciate it. Could you just give a quick shout out to your website and how people in Pennsylvania can get connected with you?
Absolutely. We are PittsburghNormal.org. We are the local affiliate of NORML, the subchapter here in Pittsburgh. We're working to bring the cannabis community in southwestern Pennsylvania together and to affect real change. We've got 2 bills that are pending here in Pennsylvania, one for medicinal marijuana and one for full legalization, and we've got an uphill battle. So to anyone that's interested, please find us at PittsburghNormal.org, find us on Facebook, and support our cause. Thank you.
Thank you,
and thanks for staying up so late to be on our show. We appreciate it for sure. You have a great night.
You as well. Take care.
Good luck.
We're going to cut to a quick break, and then when we come back, we're going to see a short video from CNN covering one of our other local children here in Oregon who benefits from medical marijuana. And this story isn't quite as happy as the Mykayla story, but it's definitely worth watching. So we'll be right back.
And before we go to break, real quick, let me give an update for folks that are tuning in for the auction that we're still continuing for Brave Mykayla. We've got about 2 minutes left in auction item bidding for some of the items that are up for bids. That the auction ends tonight at 8:30, so we're still 2 minutes away. And looking over what has been bid so far, it looks as though we've made $187 for Brave Mykayla tonight.
Oh, we can do better than that.
Definitely. I did post a link to this on our Facebook page and on my personal Facebook page, so I'm hoping to get a couple last-minute auctioners in there.
All right, so we will take a break, and when we come back, we've got video here on A Different View.
I've been playing rock and roll for a lot of years, and I've done it all. Now I do it without drugs. Hey, don't get me wrong, I still party with the best of them, but now I do it clean. I'm on top of everything I do.
I'm Sub Cool from Team Green Avenger. At TGAgenetics.com, we are working on the leading edge of medical strains. Our strains are rigorously tested for THC, CBD, THCV, and other critical cannabinoids. Know your grow. Check out our genetic diversity at TGAgenetics.com, the home of Jelly Bean, Jack the Ripper, Vortex, and other award-winning cannabis strains.
Funky, licious.
Oh yeah, that's right. Grooving, keeping it mellow here at the Funky Roller Ring. So join me, Big Daddy, every Thursday night. The doors open at 11 Eastern, 8 Pacific, baby.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Groove on. Groove on.
A different view.
Wow, that was some rocking out music.
Welcome back.
That was Wasp.
Wasp?
Wasp.
Okay, I'm feeling angry now.
Sounds so loud to me. So we have a special guest that's popping in real quick.
We have a special guest that's popping in real quick.
We have Erin Purchase and Brave Mykayla. And Mykayla, we love your hat.
Purchase and Brave Mykayla.
Oh.
And Mykayla, we love your hat.
We're getting an echo, I'm afraid, though.
Yeah, do you guys have headphones?
Yeah, we're going to have to see if we can get you guys on headphones. Otherwise, it's going to echo on us pretty bad with the speakers like that. So,
if you want to put them back on, tell them to mute it. If they can hear me, mute it. And just tell us real quick what's going on, because we've only got a minute or two, but give us a quick update, and we don't have to talk.
Oh, they're getting the headphones on.
Oh, good. That'll be even better.
It's live.
So
it's
we've been having the auction. How long has that been going on? 24?
Since 3 o'clock today.
So since 3 o'clock today, there's been an auction going on. We just gave a $187 tally so far, it sounds like, to the auction.
Yeah, like.
And it's closing out or just about to close out?
Well, it's closed out for today. There's some items that were, up for bids for just today, and those we're done with. So I'm going to go through and we'll see who won those. We got a $20 bid for the Freedom Fighter issue, Richard Lee issue of High Times.
Nice.
A $10 bid for one of my Dabs issues.
Yes.
$100 bid for the Canasig Vapor Pen. So
Nice.
Thank you very much for that bid.
Awesome.
$42 for the Double Sneaky-Toke Road Dog Kit, and $15 from the Jane Hampshire High Times issue. So yeah, I think if my math's right in my head, that's $187.
Nice.
And it looks like they've gone, so they're off the line now.
Yep. No longer able to do them. So do we have them with headphones now?
No, they're off now.
They're gone?
Yeah,
Okay.
they dropped off.
Okay, so we're going to show a quick video about Brave Mykayla being one of the children that's been pretty public about her medical marijuana use. And then we have Alex's story. Jeremy Echols was on a previous show. We're going to watch this quick clip. It's about 4 minutes from CNN.
And
then
just
we'll
as
talk
a warning,
a little bit.
if you are very sensitive,
It is a little bit graphic, and there is a
Yeah.
warning at the beginning of the video to that nature. So if you have kids,
might
maybe
not be appropriate.
give it a minute. We got that video,
Yeah,
Russ?
getting there.
Perfect.
An Oregon family is trying a controversial treatment to manage their son's autism rage. They've turned to medical marijuana to help treat his behavior. KPTV's Nicole Dahl has this only on 12 investigation, but we do want to warn you. Some of the home video you're about to see, which this family took of their son, may be difficult to watch.
It's difficult to watch this video of an Oregon child hurting himself in a fit of rage. 11-year-old Alex Echols is severely autistic, his self-destructive behavior brought on by tuberous sclerosis, a genetic disorder that affects about 50,000 people in the U.S. It causes growths in organs, in Alex's case, primarily in the brain. Those growths can lead to seizures and autism. Alex can't communicate with words, making it difficult to understand what's troubling him.
Indescribable. It was horrifying. He was able to just be acting normal and all of a sudden just run himself to a wall.
His parents have turned to a controversial treatment, medical marijuana, to manage Alex's behavior.
When you've got no other options, are you honestly going to say no?
It wasn't always this way, though.
He was actually going to be Jake for the longest time, and when he was born, we saw him and said, that's not Jake, that's Alex.
The day Alex was born, Jeremy and Karen Echols were full of hope until 6 weeks later, when their baby had his first seizure.
We didn't know he was going to be autistic at that time. I think he was 3 the first time he started hurting himself, though.
By the time Alex was 5, it was intense, self-directed rage. Alex headbutted anything he could, bruising his forehead so badly, his father says the blood would drain until Alex's entire face was black and blue. They got him a helmet, swaddled him like a newborn, tried mood-altering drugs. But Alex's daily violent behavior became the Eugene family's new normal. When he was 8, they made the heartbreaking decision to move Alex into a state-funded group home.
It was like we were throwing him away. Like we were just giving him to somebody else and saying, sorry, buddy, you're not part of the family anymore. It was pretty rough.
But was there a way to help him, to bring back this smiling boy? Alex's parents looked into Oregon's medical marijuana program, and a doctor approved Alex. Alex is now one of about 50 Oregon children with a card like this. While autism is not a qualifying medical condition like cancer or severe pain, in Alex's case, the seizures are. And after a few months of treatment, the Echols say they saw a dramatic improvement.
He went from hitting himself, blooding his face. Within an hour, hour and a half, he would be playing with toys, using his hands, something that at that time was almost unheard of.
It's an extremely rare occurrence for Alex.
Alex's group home won't give him the marijuana, so about 3 times a week his parents give him a liquid form of the drug. Oregon law does not require a doctor to monitor a child's medical marijuana use. In fact, Alex's neurologist at Dornbecker Children's Hospital didn't know about the alternative treatment until we told him.
Did it surprise you that they were trying something?
No, I don't think so at all. I certainly am very much with them in my desire to help Alex. All of us want to help Alex.
Alex's doctor didn't speak directly about the controversy of using medical marijuana on children, but the American Academy of Pediatrics is against it. A doctor representing that group tells me that marijuana is toxic to children's developing brains, and there isn't enough known about the drug's long-term effects.
For us, the long-term side effects that are unknown for something that can't kill him are a lot better than the long-term side effects of him beating himself bloody.
The Echols also say they're not advocating the use of medical marijuana for all autistic children, but they say walk a mile in their shoes, and the treatment might not seem so extreme.
Yeah. Your little sister.
Alex's parents say that they videotaped his episodes to prove that his injuries were self-inflicted. They've created a website about Alex's journey that includes a blog with updates, and we have a link to that on our website, kptv.com.
Well, how that's a...
An Oregon family is trying
This is a story that we covered about this time last year. Actually,
Yeah.
we had a story, an episode where we actually had 3 different parents that used medical marijuana for their children. And at the time that we had him on last year, it was about the time they had to decide to put him in the group home. And it was a very hard decision for them to make. But his story sort of highlights the ridiculousness of some of the prohibitionist arguments.
Right.
I know you rolled your eyes a little bit when they were talking about the developmental concerns. This poor boy is injuring his head. If there's something that is going to affect your IQ,
It's going to be a head
it's a head injury.
Yeah.
There
A
is no
repeated
doubt
head
about that. If cannabis will stop him from having those head injuries, that is not going to lower his IQ. You have this fantasy that there's these perfect children who then use marijuana and therefore it can only go down.
Well, a lot
but the
of that
reality
comes
is that
from
it's helping some of
the
these
scare
problems.
tactics, and a lot of it also comes from that this is your brain on drugs. The eggs and all that stuff. I almost said that wrong. It comes from that kind of anxiety that created anxiety from that period. But I also,
just before I get started on something, just want to let you know, we've got Mykayla back on the line. She's on headphones and in
good.
your picture-in-picture right now. So,
Excellent.
Hi, Mykayla.
Hello.
This is Brave Mykayla, the other very well-known Oregon medical marijuana patient here.
Or as I like to call Cutie Patootie. How are you doing?
Good.
Good. I'm glad you stayed up past your bedtime to call in and talk to us. I see that you were wearing a different hat than the one that you wore when you came to our house.
Yep, this one's my panda one.
Oh, that's awfully cute. I sure like pandas.
Yep, pandas are my favorite.
So we were just discussing other children in Oregon here who use medical marijuana, and this is becoming a very big topic this year. Mykayla, do you feel like you're getting a lot more attention than you did before?
Mhm.
Everybody knows who you are now, huh?
Yeah.
Mykayla, what would you say to other kids who might be using medical marijuana for medicinal reasons for their illness?
That it's good and it's healthy and it will help.
Yeah, everybody wants to get better when they're sick, huh? If it's something that's going to help you, you definitely want to be able to get that. We know you guys have been doing that auction all day today. How many more days of the auction do we have left if people want to get in on this?
This is all available at 420radio.org. Look on the menu bar on the right. You'll find Benefit Auction. You need to create an account.
That's a question you're going to have to ask my mom.
Yeah. And I'm just telling them, too, is that they have to create an account. They can go online, and they can be a part of the auction. There's 3 more days. We're going to do it on Wednesday and on Thursday and on Friday. There's still a bunch of stuff out there, and I'm adding more stuff even as we're talking right now. So,
and this all goes to help Brave Mykayla, right?
Yes,
Mykayla?
it does. And we've got Erin joining us now.
Thank you.
Hi, Erin. Looks like
Hi, how are you?
Good. It looks like we've raised about $187 on our first day.
Wow, thank you so much.
And we shared this on our Facebook page, A Different View, and I also shared it on my page, and I think Iva was sharing it on her page. We want to help get this out there so that people know about it.
When you've also got go ahead.
I apologize. I forgot to share it so far. Yes.
Well, then it's doing great. It's all good.
I have had a busy day, so I'll share the second part of it.
There you go. Thank you.
Brandon tweeted it. He's on it.
And we can see a little bit of Riley's head poking up in the frame too.
Excellent.
Yeah, have to get on.
So we were just saying how you guys are such an inspiring family for medical marijuana, and earlier in the show I was talking about the hearing coming up next week. Have you heard about this hearing yet, Erin?
Oh, I haven't yet.
We're going to have a hearing. This one's a good one. This is to add PTSD as a qualifying condition for medical marijuana on February 7th. So we're definitely excited to see that we're looking at a positive direction immediately here with this legislative session.
And for those of you, not only as a marijuana activist that you probably didn't plan or foresee, but you're kind of forced into that role, but you're also a good role model for parents who are dealing with what you're dealing with, who are having to make critical decisions for their children's health, make decisions that have long-term impact. And you write a really great blog, and I've read it as often as I can, and I find some of the stuff that you have to face on a day-to-day basis exhausting. I don't know how you keep up with what you have to do with. So, I want to thank you for writing such a good and personal blog for all those other parents that are out there that might be confronting what you're confronting. What can you give me can you say the blog address again?
It's Brave Momma at blogspot.com.
No, tell them to go to the website and click the titles of your.
Yeah.
You'd have to go to the website, www.bravemykayla.com, and go to Brave Momma's blog. On the toolbar up top, click the button, and if you click a title to the blog, then you will be able to get to her blogger account.
Perfect. I'm doing that right now on our Facebook page so that our listeners will have the links and our Facebook fans will have the links. Excellent. Yeah, I've read a little bit of your blog too, and you are very well spoken, and you highlight a lot of the issues that I think a lot of people don't think about. So it's great perspective.
Thank you. I'm trying to get used to this headphone thing, and it's hard.
Oh, that's okay. I think we're going to actually have to cut to a break, but we'll definitely touch base next week and summarize how the whole auction went for the week, and we'll keep sharing it throughout the week. So you guys have a good night.
Okay, bye.
Bye, Mykayla.
And we're a different view here. I'm going to run through our ADV 420 on Twitter and Facebook, a different view 420, and we'll be right back.
Look and I'll find that I'm on the hurting alleys. The answer, no question, my little country girl. The kiss on her lips is cool as a water. Sweeter than blue bonnets, sweeter than spring. The light in her eyes has left me believing. Can't help but loving that hill country girl.
Hi, this is Dan Michaels. If you're looking for professional voice talent for your commercial or podcast, I'm your man. Visit danmichaelsaudio.com for more information.
Georgia. Hi, this is Willie Nelson, and I need your help. Our marijuana laws are terribly unfair, and they make criminals out of law-abiding citizens. Nearly 2,000 Americans are arrested every day on marijuana charges, and we are unfairly destroying the lives and careers of hundreds of thousands of people simply because they smoke marijuana. These are not criminals. They are average citizens like you, good neighbors who work hard, raise families, pay taxes, and contribute to their communities. And it's time we stopped arresting responsible marijuana smokers. We need your help to end marijuana prohibition once and for all. It's the fair thing to do.
For more information, contact NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. Call toll-free 888-67-NORML or visit their website at norml.org.
Welcome back. I don't know if we have the speakers. I'm not hearing myself. Am I coming out? Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit. Everything sounds really weird. I don't know what's going on with my headphones. Anyway,
It's what's between them.
so we're going to talk a little bit about the changing conversation that's going on since we've legalized in Washington and Colorado. And I highlighted a couple of different articles up on our website. One from the Times, you know, the magazine, Time magazine, and one from Seattle Times, the newspaper up there in Washington. And both of them are just interesting changes in the dialogue. The one from the Times is from Time magazine, I mean, is a senior editorial board member of the Times or senior writer and former board member from the Time magazine, calling for national legalization, which is kind of cool because Time magazine is a mainstream.
Right.
And Times had favorable articles in the past, don't get me wrong, but this is basically an editorial from Time magazine saying, let's legalize. And that's cool. The Seattle Times article is a whole different perspective with them being on the brink of instituting commercial legal marijuana. They have had a whole different scenario playing out. They just had a trade organizational meeting, kind of convention thing, whatever you call it, where people were coming together to discuss all of the different ancillary businesses related to marijuana being legal. And these sort of businesses were things such as light companies, or what was some of the other ones? I was actually just linking it on our Facebook page. It's called Getting In on the Ground Floor of the Pot Business, and it talks about these special lights with biofeedback technology, so that's supposed to help produce, your better quality cannabis. And these are things that people have. We've seen a lot of developments technologically speaking, but once you're talking about a legal market, I mean, these things have just bloomed overnight in ideas.
The other thing that was
at
there,
this convention,
right? The other thing that was there was there were also investors that were there looking to invest or to help fund startup businesses. Which as a business owner that works in this community, I can tell you that funding for anything that's marijuana related is next to never. It doesn't exist.
Right.
So a lot of these businesses that are startup businesses in this industry are true startups. They're bare bones, and not everybody's making millions. But they're true startups. They're people who, get out the boots on the street and pull in,
Right. Well, and that's, going back to what I was starting to say, I'm going to go about the lighting company. Another one of them is the cigar packaging kind of company. It's a company that wants to have this very professional sort of very formal packaging like you would get with a cigar. Cigars are like a certain image in your head,
right.
They're wrapped all.
So they're elevating the joint.
It's an elegant thing, basically, as opposed to cigarettes being that dirty thing that you do on the corner in the rain. You know what I mean? And so they're kind of trying to provide. That's how it's perceived. I'm telling you. Even here in Oregon, we're not allowed to do smoking inside buildings, tobacco smoking specifically. Right. But the laws aren't about tobacco smoking; they're about cigarette smoking. So you're allowed to have hookah lounges and cigar lounges.
Right.
It's a perspective. But needless to say, this entire convention basically was all about pot, but none of it was about selling pot. None of it was about growing pot even. It was about all of these products that assist with this market. So this just shows how big this world really is.
I've said this for a long time. This is an industry that is just getting its toes wet. We haven't even begun to scrape the surface of how big this can be. And I'll tell you when that hit me, when I made that realization, we were at the Cow Palace. Where was that at? That was a. Anyway, I couldn't hear. But anyway, we were at the Cow Palace for a KushCon, I think it was. And one whole side was just industry, people selling, from anything from lighter leashes to bongs to pipes to whatever.
Right.
And then on the other side was more the dispensaries and that sort of thing. And what was interesting to me is the space for all the ancillary businesses related to, not selling cannabis or giving recommendations was twice the size.
Right.
It was huge. And to me, that's like, can't you see there's jobs here?
Well, and again, let's presume.
We don't make anything in this country.
Let's presume that a year from now, we still don't have a commercial market. There's already an economic boom happening.
Yeah.
There are already jobs being created without a single plant having to be grown yet.
Right.
Once we start having the cultivation, licensed and legal and happening, it only gets bigger. This is just the first wave of innovation. And a lot of people in the Seattle Times article are sort of likening it to the Silicon evolution, revolution, whatever you want to call it. That was a world changer. It really was. And it went global. Everything changed with that technology that comes with that sort of. It's just huge.
Well, just for a country that we, like I was saying, we don't make anything anymore. We need more products.
We need a crop.
That too. But that's what legalization really does give us. Is this industry for all those who are consumers, and then the whole other realm of nutritional products, and then a whole other realm of like ancillary products. The list goes on and on and on.
Right. And so I don't have this link readily available, but I'll try to remember. I'll give myself a little note to link it. I was reading another article that Kentucky is very much pushing for hemp. With this changing dialogue, Kentucky was like one of the homes of hemp production, in years past.
Bring back hemp.
Why shouldn't they be growing it?
Yeah.
I come from the Midwest. Trust me, Kentucky could use some hemp. and there's plenty of it growing wild already. Why not cultivate it,
Right.
But then another thing, which you and I both, and Russ as well, went to this last weekend, and we mentioned early on in our show, and I kind of want to conclude back here in Oregon with this, was the Blumenauer Town Hall. This is also changing the dialogue here in Oregon. We're not talking about, are we going to legalize? We're saying, are we doing it in 2014 or 2016?
And how
that
are
is
we
a
going,
whole
and,
different conversation that we've been having in years past.
And what policies are we going to do something conservative or something a little more relaxed, like Measure 80? That conversation it's not about if or what, or it's like here it's going to happen.
And I think I want to be clear. I think there are some people in Oregon that are concerned that with a push towards legalization, that patients' rights and access will be left out in the cold. And I don't think that's it at all. I think that I'm seeing more and more people standing up with the idea that anybody should be able to smoke marijuana. Hell yes, you should be protected. Right. Get out of our lives, legislature. You know what I mean? There's a whole different perspective that's being taken with this whole dialogue. It's not just, yes or no on this last vote.
Well, I think that people are coming around to common sense regulation when it comes to cannabis and possibly even expanding that to other drugs. I think they realize that prohibition has done nothing but made things worse, not only for our children gaining access and loosening safety standards, but also it has become a tragic nightmare for Mexico, and it has an impact on a lot of our urban cities, and it's time to take a different approach to this because it's not working. Abstinence training doesn't work.
Right. Absolutely. It's amazing to me to see how far we've come in so quick. And again, we talked about this previously in a previous show. We were talking about how when alcohol prohibition ended, how it was nearly overnight. It was nearly overnight. It was just that one little step, and then you might as well have just fallen. It just happened overnight. And with alcohol prohibition, it was something as simple as legalizing. I think it was 2% beer. Yeah, it was either 2 or 3%. It was very minimal. Beer brewed locally tends to be like 8 or 9%. So, so 2 to 3% is not really beer today. But that's what did it. It ended alcohol prohibition just like that. So
they were drinking anyway. But I think that we said this before Washington and Colorado legalizes that it only takes one state to change the conversation. One state to legalize to change the conversation. We got 2, so we got twice what we were hoping for, and I really do. I mean, after Sunday's meeting, didn't you kind of feel like, okay, at least we're talking legalization, not expanding the program?
I think the whole dialogue, like I said, has changed. We're having a different conversation, and I think that's good. A different view, a different conversation. It's all the same thing. So we should probably wrap up. I want to try to get Human Collective founder Sarah Bennett on our show next week. That's the plan currently. We need to confirm with her, but we're hoping to see her on our show next week.
Either she'll call in or somehow participate in the show.
Yeah. We're hoping to hear a little bit more from her, and I'm hoping also to try to get Jeremy Echols, Alex's dad, the story. I want to have him on again and talk a little bit more about, I mean, he's been through a lot this last year, and Brave Mykayla is kind of just coming out with, being a cannabis patient now, and I want to kind of hear from his perspective about
I think there is a lot of parents out there that are not sure if they want to join the program, but are definitely a lot more curious. I think there's a lot of parents out there that don't have the resources as far as a support group or resources to have people educate them or introduce them or provide them access. But I think this has definitely opened up the conversation on how to and why we should.
And like we were talking about earlier, as far away as Indiana and Pittsburgh, people are talking differently now as a result of what's happened, out here on the West Coast of Colorado.
And I think that legalization has made it easier for those states to get medical.
Yeah, definitely. I think we're going to be seeing a lot more states adopting medical marijuana policies.
Yay!
You're listening to A Different View. Our website is adifferentview.us, and we can be found with all the other shows at 420radio.org.
Quick update. You now have adv420.com.
Perfect. That's what we wanted. adv420.com, our new website link. We'll be back next Tuesday at 8 p.m. and hopefully every Tuesday after that. And you can check us out on Facebook, A Different View 420, or Twitter, adv420.
Long